No, Henry, that was me. I was here just a minute ago, just checking on you, and you were fine. And he goes, no, Daddy, it wasn't you. There's a boy in my room. And I was like, oh, no, 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 you can't say things like that. That's not cool. That is not cool, man. Because
Daddy's not going to sleep.
I just convinced myself that I was hallucinating. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a boy in your room? And he goes, yeah, there's a boy in my room. And I said, did he hurt you? He goes, no. And I said, what was he doing? He goes, standing. He's just standing. And I said, where was he standing? He goes, by the door, which is where I saw him standing.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh, this is not cool. And,
Did you sleep?
And, well, we're not done. So
Yeah,
he's getting all drowsy-eyed, and then all of a sudden his brow furrows a little bit, and his eyes get really big. He goes, there he is, Daddy. He's right behind you.
You had an experience that I know you're willing to share, hopefully, willing to share when you were a young father to your little boy. You want to share that with the audience?
Yeah, that was a difficult experience. And it helped me appreciate a lot of other things, which will become more obvious when I tell the story. So my son was about a year and 3/4, so he's a year and 9 months. And he was able to get out of bed and that. So we had a gate, in front of his bedroom door. His crib was lowered. The side was taken off so he could get in and out of bed himself. But we had a gate in front of his door so that we lived in an upstairs apartment so that he wouldn't escape his room and fall down the stairs or something horrible in the middle of the night, right?
Been there.
And so I was going to bed one night, and I'll give you all the caveats that were running through my head at the time or later. Was, it was 2 a.m. I was tired. I'm going from a brightly lit living room to a dark hallway. And as I'm walking down the hallway, approaching, his bedroom was so we had a hallway. At the end of the hallway was the bathroom, and on either side of the bathroom were 2 bedrooms. So his bedroom was on the left side, and his parents' bedroom was on the right side. And so I'm approaching the bathroom to, brush my teeth before I go to bed. And as I'm coming up on his room, I see a boy standing at the gate. And my son would sometimes do this, so I thought at first it was him. But I was puzzled because he looked bigger. My son's only a year and a half, so he holds the gate like this, right? But this boy was holding it down here. And as I get closer, he looks like he's about 5 years old. And I'm like, well, this isn't right. What's happening? So I said his name. I said, Henry, is that you? And didn't answer. And I walked closer, a little confused and starting to feel a little spooked, that uncanny valley feeling where something's wrong here and it shouldn't be, right? And, the hallway is a typical hallway in a house. I mean, it's 4 feet across. So I got to within 5 feet of him easily and could see him well enough. There was light coming down the hallway from the living room and he was properly lit. I was like, this isn't my son. This is a 5-year-old boy. And he's holding the gate and so I'm just confused. I'm like, what's going on here? This isn't my son. And then but I was worried. So I remember I had my arms crossed and I had my back up against the wall and I said, Henry, is that you? And I'm thinking, I'm just confused here. Something's wrong, and why is this not working? And Henry, is that you? What's wrong? Is that you, Henry? And then the boy looks at me, and he looked scared. His eyes were big, and he looked scared. And I think that scared me. The fact that he looked scared me. And he very, very delicately let go of the gate. He didn't just quick let go. He very slowly lifted his fingers up like this, and his eyes were big, and he was staring at me. And then he just held his hands steady and he backed into the room with his hands up like this, which was kind of an abnormal movement.
Mm.
I mean, thinking about it now, when I reflect on it, thinking that, he did look scared. So if he was scared, he's maybe trying not to make any more movements than he had to get away from me. And he backs into the room, into the shadows in the room. And I'm just like, that's not my son. That's somebody else. And then the parent kicks in, right? There is a stranger in my son's room. And all the fear is gone. I ran at the door. I jumped over that gate and ready to grab this kid. And I land in the room and I look and there's no one in there. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on? And so I search the room. I check on my son. He's asleep in bed. He's fine. I'm looking around the room. I look everywhere. I look under his bed. I'm looking in the closet. I'm looking on the top of the dresser, everything, just because I'm like, there was a kid here a minute ago. I was 4 feet away from him. It was, very clear. And then I was like, well, there's no one in here now. My son's fine. It is 2 a.m. You are clearly hallucinating. You need to get yourself to bed is what needs to happen, right?
Was your son asleep?
He was asleep, yeah. So I checked on him, made sure he was covered nicely. He was asleep. He was fine. And so I left the room, stepped over the gate, and went right next door to the bathroom to start brushing my teeth. And I'm just telling myself, I'm like, clearly you're hallucinating. That was not your son. There's nobody there. Stop worrying about it. And I'm brushing my teeth, and I'm almost done brushing my teeth, and all of a sudden I hear my son shout, "Mommy, Daddy, help, help." And I just ran from the bathroom right next door, jumped over the gate again, and went up to his bed. And I said, "Henry, what's wrong?" And he says, "There's someone in my room." And I was like, "Oh, no, 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 this is not cool." And then I thought, well, wait a minute. I was just here. Then there was no one in the room, and he probably is now waking up with the realization that, I was in the room, but he didn't know that it was me, right? So I told him, I said, "No, Henry, that was me. I was here just a minute ago, just checking on you, and you were fine." And he goes, "No, Daddy, it wasn't you. There's a boy in my room." And I was like, "Oh, no, 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 you can't say things like that. That's not cool." That is not cool, man. Because
Daddy's not going to sleep.
I just convinced myself that I was hallucinating. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"There's a boy in your room?" And he goes, "Yeah, there's a boy in my room." And I said, "Did he hurt you?" He goes, "No." And I said, what was he doing?" He goes, "Standing. He's just standing." And I said, "Where was he standing?" He goes, "By the door," which is where I saw him standing.
Mm-hmm.
But, this is not cool. And I said, "Well, what happened to him? Where'd he go?" He goes, "I don't know where he went. He was there and then he wasn't there." And I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no. This can't be happening." And you're the parent. You've gotta you gotta keep the kid calm, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
He's looking at you for
he's still
guidance.
teary-eyed and upset. I couldn't quite understand why he was so scared. And I asked about that, and he didn't really reply. He's 1.5, so you're not going to get a whole. He's not going to give you his evaluation of his psyche. So I asked him, though. I said, "Well, all right. Do you want me to sleep in here with you tonight?" And he said, "Yes, please." And so we had an air mattress in our little storage room down the hall where and it was inflated, just stuck in there, inflated in case he needed us to sleep in there with him. So I just went and grabbed that and laid it down next to his crib. And I laid down next to him, and he's laying down, I'm laying down, I'm rubbing his back, and he's getting all drowsy-eyed, and everything's fine.
Did you sleep?
And, well, we're not done. So he's getting all drowsy-eyed, and then all of a sudden his brow furrows a little bit, and his eyes get really big. He goes, There he is, Daddy. He's right behind you. And I rolled over, and there's nobody there. I rolled over, and I rolled back, and I said, Henry, I don't see anybody. And he said, I don't know, Daddy. He was there, and then he wasn't there. I said, that's it. We're out of here. I'm done. I'm done. I grabbed him, and we went next door to our bedroom. My wife's asleep, and I put him in bed with us, and my wife said, why are you bringing Henry in here? He goes, Henry's sleeping with us tonight. And I don't want to talk about it till the morning. and I closed the door, hoping that somehow keeps the boy out of my room, and tried to go to sleep, and eventually did. But
did he ever come back?
In the morning, of course, my wife questions Henry about it, and he confirms, yeah, there was a boy in my room, and Dad came in, and yeah, he confirms the whole story. Yeah, so it was
wow.
And for me, it was very upsetting because it was independent confirmation from somebody who's not going to lie, somebody who's couldn't possibly have made this up.
Mm-hmm.
It was just clear. It was, and I worked hard to convince myself that I was hallucinating, right? And then I have all of this independent verification that, well, wait, no, you're not hallucinating. There's a boy that appeared in his room 3 times in a 10-minute period. And then the being a parent is kicking in, where you realize, wait a minute. How do I keep my kids safe if somebody can just appear in his room at any minute? And I did not sleep for years. I mean, I still don't have good sleeping habits. You'll still get emails from me at 4 a.m. because I prefer to stay up and keep watch. It just is, I stay up, check on people, make sure everything's okay. And because I know that, from experience, I know that somebody can just appear in the house and, at a moment's notice. And that's a very disturbing problem to have, because you can't go to anyone and talk. I mean, the old joke is, who are you going to call?
Right.
And so, I can't go to anybody for help. What do you do? Call the police? Yeah, there was a boy appeared in my son's room 3 times tonight. What are the police going to do? Park a car outside? And I mean, there's nothing you can do. And at one level, I know this is real because it happened. Do I have an explanation of it? I have zero explanation. I have no idea what happened. I don't know who the boy was. Is he a ghost? I don't know. I don't know what a ghost is. And I don't, physicist, I don't believe in ghosts. So, I mean,
did that change your beliefs?
I don't know.
Yeah, right. Okay, right. So
so what it did is, it's kind of a wake up call, as Jeff Kripal would call it's the flip, where I was flipped, where I realized, wait a minute, all is not normal. The universe has some strange things to it that aren't common, but they're not that rare either. And I think the bigger problem is that most of us don't pay attention to them. Had Henry not woken up, I would have gone to bed thinking it was a hallucination, and that would have been the end of the story, and I would have forgotten about it a week later, and all done, right? So it would have just gone away. And how many times has that happened to people, where they convince themselves they were hallucinating, and what if they weren't?
Well, I mean,
nobody wants to go back and revisit that because it's kind of traumatic.
Well, I think that's where our knowledge base societally suffers. Because yes, most people don't pay attention to it. Most people, like me, like you in this example, try to explain it away in real time.
Blow it off. Blow it off is, I don't know what that was. I mean, you in the extreme cases, you just go, I don't know what that was. And you forget about it, right? You just try to forget about it.
But it does make sense too, because you're trying to maintain safety in your sphere. So if you explain it away, it's easier for you to manage what's around you. So I get it. As a father, I get that too. I probably would have done the same. But then the third thing is, most of us remember something in our life that we can't explain, but don't share it.
Yeah.
So we live our lives not sharing. And so
Right.
there's a knowledge database that doesn't exist like it should for scientists to explore.
No, it happens. It happens to people all over the place, and it happens to scientists, and it happens to doctors and
Non-scientists.
lawyers and everybody. Yeah. So what it is, we don't know because it's never really been taken seriously, never really been studied. So it apparently is one of these situations where you've got the universe in an extreme condition, right? and
Right.
and
Right.
and if you did if you were able to study it, you might be able to learn a lot about the universe this way. But
Yeah. It's in the universe in a weird state that you don't understand. Yeah.
it's in a
Yeah.
weird state. Yeah.
So, again, obvious question. Did that particular episode inform how you approach your science from that point? Was there a change in how you approach your science?
Well, it did inform me that I clearly don't know as much about the universe as I thought I did.
Hmm.
Because I can't explain that at all. I don't have a single theory as to what happened there. I saw a boy, very clear. I was 4 feet away from him. Had I not been worried and backed up against the wall, I could have probably grabbed him.
Sure.
Then I tried to grab him after he backed into the room. Yeah, I was that close to him. It wasn't like it's not some misty figure up on the top of the stairs and I'm way down here. No, I'm this far from me to my computer away from the kid. I really would like to know what's going on. That's really what's driven me in my research is to become a physicist. I want to know how the universe works. What is this place? It's a weird place. I forget which physicist said this. The big mystery of the universe is basically why is there not nothing? That's the big question. Why is there not nothing? That's really a really profound question. The universe is weird. We're weird, and it's amazing how prosaic it becomes to us living here, right? It just kind of becomes normal, and we have this idea that everything's normal. There's nothing normal about this universe. And I think these other weird things are reminders that look, you live in a weird place.
Yeah. Maybe we're the abnormalities.
It could very well be. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that little 5-year-old boy was scared stiff by the abnormality that he saw walking down the hallway towards him. Like,
Well, I worry about that. I worry about, when I think back about it, at the time I was scared because I didn't know what was going on. And then when he was scared, it made me even feel more anxious. And, but now looking back at it, I worry about him. Who is the boy and what was he going through? What if it was a real boy and, he was experiencing something. I mean, that would have been terrifying for a kid to experience. So I feel bad about that. And then, of course, you've got the ghost hypothesis, which people, it's not even a hypothesis, it's an idea where
sure.
ghosts are dead spirits that are whatever wandering. I mean, what a horrible existence for a little boy spirit to be having, right? I mean, I wouldn't want that
That's
for
a good point.
eternity. So I pray to God that that's not what happens. Right.